Do I post and pray? Do I source? The secret is you do both. This isn't an either or type thing. Do both.
It's always good to do both because you don't know who's going to trickle in through the application process. And as you're reviewing applicants, you're kind of learning, who is this post attracting? Is it attracting the right people?
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenly, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today we've got a phenomenal Tactical Tuesday ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we open up for Q&A, and other days you get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. And as a reminder, if you love the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, today's Tactical Tuesday. If there is one thing that we consistently hear from in-house organizations, it's that their primary hiring strategy is post and pray. Phenomenal news for external recruiters as it tees them up very well with your outreach to hiring managers for positions that you see have been posted for months on end and still not filled. But what about for those here who are in-house recruiters? Is it post and pray that's all you know or all that you're allowed to do as an organization? Are there other larger factors at play that tie your hands behind your back and prevent you from being able to properly source for hires that you need to make? So today we're going to break down why posting and praying falls short and what in-house recruiters can do when they recognize that they need to take a more proactive approach to hiring. And as always, we have our favorite Tactical Tuesday co-host Vivien here to join us for the conversation. Vivien, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. So the conundrum, I don't know why I wanted to use that word. I just felt like using that word today, of in-house recruiters. And what do they do when sometimes they struggle with being stuck with thinking like, is post and pray the only option? Or, they're not able to find candidates they might want for the positions that they've got. What are some alternatives that they can do? Or maybe before we even get into that, like, post and pray. Do we just want to do like a quick pros cons of some of that?
Yeah, let's do it. So initially what I was kind of thinking about is just even the psychology of how are your candidates going to find your job posting? Because when you think about it, unless you're a super well-known company like Nike or Amazon, then you really don't have to rely a whole lot on actually sourcing because great candidates are naturally finding you because you are so well known for having high quality hires. And that's why you see a lot of people even saying on LinkedIn, they're ex-Google, ex-Facebook and all that kind of stuff, because you know that these companies have a tendency to have high quality hires. So if you've been there for a long enough period, that's almost like a guaranteed interview for a lot of people, just because they're so well known for the quality and there's such a high demand for it that they have their pick of the litter essentially. And so the initial thoughts that I kind of had was, okay, well, there are certain jobs that people have no idea they exist. So they don't even know how to search for them. They don't know that these exist. For example, I had no idea that customer success existed. I would not have thought about this. The only way I figured this out is because I saw our CEO, Matt, post that they were looking for people on LinkedIn. And I checked out the careers page. I looked at the CSM role and I really liked it. And I reached out to Matt and the rest is history. That's the only way that I found out about it. Otherwise, I never would have found Loxa. I never would have found this role to begin with. And so this is where, unless you're one of those bigger companies, if you're smaller, not as well known, you're very niche, this is where posting and praying is not going to be that beneficial. You're not going to get a whole lot of quality applicants. Even the number of applicants is going to be really low just because not everybody might know the job title that you're hiring for. It can be very niche, can be very industry specific. And then not everybody's actually going to know your company. So those are the initial ones that I kind of thought of. And then we were kind of chatting through this. And the problem with that is that each job posting has a very, very limited reach unless you're throwing a whole lot of money on it. If you're a smaller company, odds are your marketing budget as well as your job posting budget are going to be very limited. And then we also got, it will take a longer time to fill just because you're waiting for candidates to find you as opposed to approaching them proactively. The quality of the candidates is going to vary. I remember that I had a posting for an electrical engineer and I actually had software engineers applying for electrical engineers that was supposed to be in a manufacturing setting. Not that great, but this is why you actually need to source it. It's very beneficial. And the other part of it is also cost. If you want to compete, especially against like the larger companies with somewhat unlimited posting budgets, you're going to have a hard time competing if you're a small in-house company. Like if you have just like 100, 200, 300, 500, any like 1,000 or less employees, you're a little bit more strapped for budget when it comes to recruiting. And this is where you have to get a little bit more creative and kind of get into some other strategies.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the agency recruiters listening to this are just like, yep, thank you, we know this. For the in-house recruiters, I have a feeling that many of them know this and see this and understand it, and that's where they're just stuck with, well, it's all I know, or it's all that we're allowed to do. So those are the downsides of when you can only post and pray. When you do start to get into sourcing, especially as an in-house recruiter, what are some of the pros of being able to take that more proactive approach if they were to say like, okay, I'm finally ready to start sourcing for my company? What are the upsides that I can use to present to my leadership, to my manager, and say like, this is why we need to take a more proactive approach?
So the first part is, as a recruiter, then you can actually look for the right people. You can find the exact candidates and profiles that you want to reach out to. The other part of that is, once you do reach out to them and they actually respond to you, you have a chance to actually talk to them to figure out what is it going to take to get one of these candidates that really are a perfect fit to get them to work for us. What exactly are they looking for? Majority of recruiters and people and hiring managers think that a lot of times it's just money and salary that people care about. Most seasoned recruiters will tell you that they've had enough examples where people took a very steep pay cut because their motivations for changing jobs are very different. In the recruiting world, we talk about CLAMPS. CLAMPS stands for challenge, location, advancement, and growth opportunities, money and benefits, along with people and stability. So those are the top kind of reasons that and motivators for people to change jobs. Some people are, and we talked about this, high growth individuals. They're going to look for a challenge and for growth opportunities. There's others who are going to say, I don't want to commute an hour anymore. I want something that is maybe hybrid, something that is remote, or I'd be totally down with going into the office, as long as it's within 15 minutes. For example, my best friend in Florida, she's not a big fan of working fully remotely, so she actually was looking for an office job. So that's not something that, I know that there's like a big thing about everybody wants to be remote. That's not true. My best friend does not want to be remote. She wants to actually socialize with people and be in the office and drive in, which is totally fine. Everybody has different kind of reasons and motivators, but it's not something that she figured out until she's tried it, because in theory, remote sounds really good, but then in practice, something different might come out of it. Same thing with people and stability. Some people are in a very volatile space. So for example, tech, the last couple of years was very volatile. So it exploded during the pandemic because everybody was on tech. So tech specifically had like a huge growth and started hiring and even over hiring. And then we started seeing all of these huge layoffs. And so there's not a whole lot of stability there. Same thing with banking. In like 2009, 2008, it seemed like there was a lot of stability until there wasn't. And so people start looking for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it can be work-life balance. Sometimes they just want like a different challenge and kind of growth opportunities. So it's not always just money. And when you actually proactively search for just a handful of the right ideal candidates and you do some personalized one-to-one kind of outreach, you can have a chat with them and figure out, what is it that these people are even looking for? How can we make this a little bit more attractive so that you can adjust the posting that you have to potentially attract the right ones naturally to you without you having to change a whole lot of things or increasing budgets and things like that. So that was one pro for sourcing candidates.
Just
some
one.
Other
a very important one.
A very important one. It's something that I wanted to elaborate on because it's something that is easily missed. It's so obvious it can be right in front of your face, but the benefits of it are so huge. Might as well just dive right into it. The other part of it is you can reach passive candidates. A lot of times people only start looking for jobs when they're at a breaking point, because job search, most people will tell you, is not all that fun when you're a candidate. You're applying to a lot of places. You're putting in effort into writing a resume, which most people frankly really don't enjoy and don't know how to do, which is just normal. It's not like a life skill that everybody has. It's not something that gets trained. And finding a job is a really tough thing. So most people really only do this when they've gotten to a point where they feel like they have to. So there might be people that say, you know what, I'm not super happy at my job, but I'm also not unhappy enough to do anything about it. So if you catch those kind of passive people that are at that like neutral spot in their career and at their job, you might actually be able to catch them and persuade them to switch over to you. So see if you can get a hold of them.
And even a step further, just in this past week, I've spoken with two people, two peers of mine who I know are looking for their next role. They're not currently employed. They've made it known that they're looking for their next job, everything like that. And they'll say, people will share different opportunities that are great. I like the company, I'll apply, and I don't hear a thing from them. And so that's like the irony then of you actually, for the quality candidates that you do get, but if they're just being pulled together with 100 other unqualified candidates, you might be missing some of those. So taking that more proactive approach, especially to those, you don't always have to go after people who are currently in a job. I know some people use like LinkedIn Recruiter to go after people who are open for work for the exact reason. Like you're going to have phenomenal reply rates and the opportunity to chat with them some more.
Yeah. And that's something that is like a huge benefit of LinkedIn Recruiter because candidates can basically share what is it that they're looking for, and they can hide that from their current employer in their settings. However, the problem is that, again, you're looking for people that have gone out of their way to log into LinkedIn and go through these settings. Somebody who is happy or is not unhappy enough to make a change is not going to go through the process of going to LinkedIn, adjust these settings and make themselves available and kind of advertise that they're available. And so there's still a big untapped market that you can reach out to by just kind of reaching out to some of the ideal candidates. And maybe they are open to something. Maybe they're not open, but maybe they know of someone. So for example, you, Sam, might not be interested in switching jobs anytime soon, but you know of two people in your space that are interested in looking for their next marketing opportunity. So it doesn't hurt to reach out and say hello.
That is a perfect one.
And we also got the
I know we were talking.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, go ahead. I think I was getting right into what you were going to start on next one. I have a feeling.
The other part of it is, especially if you're smaller and you don't have a big budget, everybody else that is going to be like your competitor in any way, shape, or form nearby or anything like that is probably in the same position as you where they're posting and praying. This gives you a slight competitive advantage where you're actually able to nurture relationships. So even though it may not work out today, you're getting your name out there and you're starting to spread the word that this company is hiring, and you're actually telling people what it is that you have to offer for them. And not everybody wants to work for a giant company. Some people want to work for a smaller company. Some people want to work at a company that is about to go through a huge growth or is currently going through a huge growth. So there's different preferences that everybody has. And the only way to kind of figure out what is the market even interested in to really bring value to hiring managers in your organization, even if you're an in-house recruiter, is to be like, have a pulse on what's going on in the market, especially in your niche. And as in-house, you actually have the opportunity to figure out what is exactly going on in our industry. What are the candidates interested in our industry, in our company? What are they looking for? How can we make our offering a little bit more attractive? And there's things that you can do that don't require a whole lot of budget or anything like that. It can be a change of wording, changing the benefits that you're listing. Most of the time it's fairly common that there's like health insurance and all that kind of stuff and 401k. Granted, not everybody has it, but those are not all the benefits that you need to list. You can say, hey, this is hybrid. You get to pick your remote days. You can pick when you actually want to come in. We have a flexible work schedule. So it doesn't matter if you start at 8 or at 9 or at 10. We just have a couple of meetings throughout the week that are mandatory to be for attendance and all that kind of stuff and check-ins. Outside of that, you can create the work that you want to. As long as you're delivering, you're good to go. So there's different things that you can list as benefits that can attract really high quality candidates that aren't necessarily tied to like the traditional benefits, like a competitive pay and competitive benefits and pool tables and bean bags and all of that kind of stuff. That's not everybody wants these benefits, And so, so give it a try. And outside of that, you're also building pipelines. You're starting to talk to people. You're getting to know people. You're adding people into your network, hopefully even in your database called Loxo. And that way you can always revisit them. You can nurture them. You can check in with them and say, hey, these are, I know that we spoken a while ago. I just wanted to check in, say hello. These are a couple of the opportunities. Let me know if you're interested in chatting through any of these, and just kind of doing a little bit of like warm nurturing type outreach,
That's One of the most underrated ones for in-house is if you've had candidates previously who applied and they just weren't quite the perfect fit, someone else came in above them, or you do find a number of different people, save their information, save them in your CRM. So next time, especially if you're a larger company, a growing company where you know, hey, we're always going to need more sales reps, we're always going to need more people in finance, we're always going to need more engineers, like having their information is going to save you from going and having post this job again, hope for someone to come in, or starting the sourcing process from scratch. Start within your database, and you've just skipped, I don't even know how many hours in that, and you already have landed at the qualified candidates.
For sure. And you've already put in the work to source all of these candidates, to vet them, to potentially talk to them, grab some notes, figure out what is it that they're looking for. You have all of this information in your database. Why are you starting from scratch every single time when you have some warm leads? Worst case scenario, they don't respond to you. The other scenario is they say, no, thanks, I'm not interested. My comp requirement is a little bit higher. I moved away, whatever it is, it doesn't hurt to start with your internal database that is a little bit warm, especially if it's already applicants that have already come in. That means they have come to you. Why not say hello back,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, fully. So side note on that, if you want that to work, if you want to use that pool of candidates in the future, make sure that you send a proper, like, hey, you didn't quite make the cut for this role right now, but let's stay in touch. Don't just let that be some spammy, like, bad experience, because that can work in the flip side when you do reach out later and they're like, oh, now you want me. I've seen that go pretty negatively pretty quick. So if you want to follow this approach, just make sure you're putting some thought into rejection emails to some of those candidates.
Fun little fact is, once upon a time, we did an episode on rejection emails, and have given some creative templates and ideas. And at least you are communicating with your candidates, letting them know that you appreciate the time and effort they've put into the application. At this time, it's not going to work out, but that you're going to stay in touch with future opportunities. You're just keeping your word and your promise that you mentioned in the rejection email. So hopefully this time around, things will work out.
Oh yeah, I was just looking as you said that. Episode 50 for anyone who wants to check those out. All right, so as you're going through all this, I also think, what's the secret to success with all this when you're an in-house recruiter? And I was just thinking about, well, over the next 6 to 12 months, I'm going to be adding some members to our marketing team at some point. I know the roles, I know kind of the outline. Do I post and pray? Do I source? The secret is you do both. Like, this isn't an either or type thing. Do both. Absolutely do both, especially knowing, so I've got a large network. Loxo has a phenomenal company brand, and we have other people who consistently post and share the word. So that's going to help attract some people. If we just go the post route, again, we're going to do both. But I also know exactly what I want. And this is something you and I went over in episode 103. And like, what are the core skills, the core items that these people need to have to do the job well? I know what those are too. So I'm going to post the job, see what people come in that way. But I'm also going to be sourcing over time to say, those people who aren't actively looking, who aren't seeing our posts, who aren't seeing what we share on social, I'm going to reach out to them as well and make sure I'm pulling them in the pool. And this is how you really do get the best, most diverse possible candidate pool for that position to put yourself in a good spot. So this isn't like an either or type thing. This is basically a go take this to your manager and say like, hey, we're missing out on some things. Like, let's add this in. It's only going to make the candidates, the people that we do hire for our company, that much better as we grow.
Yeah. It's always good to do both because you don't know who's going to trickle in through the application process. And as you're reviewing applicants, you're kind of learning, who is this post attracting? Is it attracting the right people? If it is attracting the right people, how can you find similar people and proactively start reaching out to them? If it's attracting people that are completely off base and there's a common thread amongst that, so it's not like this random person that are completely unrelated. If you're starting to see a common pattern, there's something in your messaging, in your posting that needs to be adjusted so that you can kind of course correct and attract the right people. And based on the results that you're getting, you can then say, okay, I'm really seeing a pattern that I like candidates that have this specific experience. Then you can use that as a starting point for searching and sourcing. When you go to LinkedIn, you don't have to have LinkedIn Recruiter. You can just go to LinkedIn and type in like that random thing that you're looking for. There's filters at the top of the public LinkedIn search where you can add any of these filters, such as like current job title, location, and all that kind of stuff. So you really don't need LinkedIn Recruiter And the other part of that is that it will actually make it a little bit more personalized when you reach out to them directly, as opposed to LinkedIn emails, because you can tell it's an email versus like, hey, wanted to connect with you. I'm looking for people exactly like you for this company. Would love to chat with you. If not, totally fine. Keep it short and simple. And I think like something that LinkedIn said is that the most successful messages have anywhere between 400 to 600 characters or less. And so that's kind of the sweet spot with those like notes that you drop whenever you're doing a connection request. I think it's like 200 characters. Keep it short and simple. If they connect with you, you can start a conversation. If not, no biggie, But yeah, kind of like start with something that you've seen works that you're looking for. And as you're talking to people, you will start figuring out how these people are even presenting themselves, because it's almost like a two-way marketing street. The one thing is how are you marketing yourself with these job postings? And so the feedback that you're getting for that is the type of applicants that you're getting. The flip side of that is you want to start chatting to candidates to figure out how are they presenting themselves, because for some reason, recruiters and candidates, they're not really talking to each other in terms of like, hey, this is what's going to help me as a recruiter find you. And candidates are not really given a good idea to recruiters of like, hey, recruiter, this is how you can find me. And the only way to really kind of bridge that gap as a recruiter is talk to people, figure out, get in their brain. And we touched on this, I think, with the rejection emails when we said that reach out to people that have a really random resume and figure out, why did you apply? Like, what happened? What made you think that this is the right fit? Not in like a what the heck were you thinking kind of way, but more so, what am I missing in your resume that maybe got lost in translation for it, like within the resume or something like that. Get in the brains of candidates to figure out how are they presenting themselves, like your ideal candidates, how are they presenting themselves, so that it will be easier for you to source for them and find them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So, and you're going to laugh because I don't have a formal recruiting background, right? So when I go into Loxo Source, sometimes I'm just like, man, where do I even begin? There's so many options. And I start to hit almost that, like, I call it the Netflix effect. You have so many options. You have so many different routes you can go that you just kind of go into this like freeze and you don't do anything. And so when I go through some of these and I first started sourcing and thinking about the different people I'd want in these roles, I go back to, okay, who's someone that is either in this role currently that's doing very well? I'm going to go look them up in Loxo right now and just see, like, if I were to look at them next to any other candidate, what are the skills that are showing up in their profile? What are the different jobs that they've had? What experience do they have? What's their career trajectory looked like? And use that to model. And so you were talking about pattern recognition earlier. So now when you do go in and you remove that name, you can start to pull out some of those different threads and see, okay, how do I find similar people to them as I go through this sourcing? And that's going to help you get over that kind of, I don't know where to go, I don't know how to start mentality, and just getting into it by leveraging kind of like a model of, okay, this is what success already looks like, so to speak. Let's go and find others like them.
Yeah. I know I'm going to contradict myself from like, I think last week's episode of don't just use job titles. You're searching, but the job title that you're hiring for is a great place to start seeing how did the right candidates who currently have everything that you're looking for with the job title that you're hiring for, do some kind of like market research to figure out kind of like what you said, what was their previous role? How did they get to this role? So that you're getting ideas of like how to even search for these people, because obviously people have a career path. They have some kind of experience that is making them ideal or not so ideal. What specifically is making them ideal? Is it the specific skills or responsibilities that they've had within that role? In that case, the job title itself is really not all that relevant. Is it the specific industry experience that they have that was really crucial, that was like, that's standing out to me, and they presented that really well on their profile? Is it a specific company that they've worked for that you said, this is exactly the type of person that we want. This is the company that like we're modeling ourselves after, that we're kind of looking up to. It would be amazing to have this person with us. So there's specific things that are making a person perfect and ideal. Start noticing these things and sourcing for those specifically. And based on that, you will start finding some people. And as you go, you will adjust the search. So the way that you're starting a search is not how you're going to end a search. The way that you're starting is just to kind of figure out what is out there, what are people's career paths, because you as a recruiter, you don't have to know everything. What you do have to know is how to be resourceful and how to find the answers that you are looking for.
Mm-hmm. And that's also the beauty of having good tech. When you look at ATS platforms 10 years ago compared to now, like And a not so subtle plug for us, like we have an insights report on this. It shows you, okay, here's the job title you want. Here's the common titles that people have moved into this position from. Here's the common industries. Here's the common college paths, then colleges they went to, the degrees they've had. So it gives you a number of different threads to pull on exactly what you're talking about there. So it's shortening that workflow for you, so you don't have to go and, get into your Sherlock Holmes mode of trying to detect your way through all that. It's like, no, we're going to tell you. Like, that's what intelligent platforms are there to help you with, is to surface those insights for you so you can use that to do what you do best and then start sourcing from there.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, the amount of times that Loxo is releasing new features that are like tempting me to get back into recruiting, it's wild. I always have to be like, breathe, Viv, breathe.
If only I had this when I was a recruiter. Yeah. So, well, good. I know this was still a Tactical Tuesday, a longer one though. We're coming up near just past 25 minutes or so. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom as we wrap this one up?
Play around with it. Talk to people. That's the best way to learn. Whenever I was working on very technical roles, I never knew where to start. And the best advice that I got is start somewhere, get somebody on the phone and just have a conversation with them. And one thing that you can do is really say, hey, explain it to me like I'm 5, because that's a really great way to vet very, very technical people, because if they can explain it really well, then you know that they know their stuff. And the good part is that you're learning something new from that as well that will help you source further.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. That's such a good piece of advice. I love it. All right, we will end on that. Vivien, as always, thank you for coming and sharing your genius with us. I know I learned from every time. Hopefully others are getting as much value from it as well. So as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. If you love this episode and you're not sure where to go next, we mentioned a couple different episodes over the course of this conversation that I would definitely recommend you go check out. And you can find the show notes in the description of your favorite podcast streaming platform, as well as on our website. And if you ever have questions, looking for advice, topics you want us to cover, send an email to us, podcast@loxo.co. So, all right, everyone, that's the show. This was a fun Tactical Tuesday episode with Vivien. Until next time, bye, y'all.